Hello and welcome to Veritas Populi, Truth for the People. I'm your host and producer for the show, Dan Meredith. On Veritas Populi, we explore many different areas, historical, political, spiritual, and cultural. We believe that the truth is like a precious metal. The harder you rub it, the brighter it shines. Today we're honored to have a couple of guests, Natalia Smothers and Jeff Jacobson. They're talking to us about the Smart Meter Education Network. You know, when I was younger, I learned how to read one of these electric meters. They used to have a little spinning thing and some dials, and I think it was part of the Boy Scouts that I went out and learned how to read a meter, and then next month you read the meter and you learned how much electricity was there. But then apparently the electrical company said, well, that's too hard to send someone out to read the meter every month, so they're going to put some smart meter in so that way they can read it from their central headquarters. But some people are studying these now, saying that there's more to it than that. It's not just being able to read it. There's a lot going on with these meters. And these people today that are with us, our guests, are going to tell us more about some of the things that are going on with these smart meters. Jeff and Natalia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dan, for inviting us to discuss this important topic.
Tell us about these smart meters. It's a little bit more than just reading the meters, isn't it? Is there something else going on with these meters?
We believe there is. First of all, there's a radio frequency transmission between homes. So you have radio frequency traveling through your home, which is harmful to your body.
Okay.
And the new appliances interface with these meters, and they can shut your power on and off. They can kind of pinpoint where you're at in a home, what power you're using and how much, and fire hazards associated with them. They're not UL listed.
Okay.
They don't have surge devices in them.
So now, my understanding, I don't know a lot about this, you all are the experts, but my understanding is that for several years they put some kind of a meter on water meters, but those aren't hooked on into the mothership. People have to go by in a car and they read your water meter because of proximity, they read that. But these meters that they put on the electric meter, they're different. There's a lot going on in these smart meters on the electric meter. As you said, they have the ability, whether they do it or not, they have the ability to read power in appliances in your home. Therefore, they know where you are in your home because of the appliances that you're using. I'm not using this as a specific example, but for example, if you were using an air conditioner in a room, they would know you were in that room. Or if you were using a toaster, that's a little silly, I guess. But if you were toasting some bread and your toaster were hooked up, they know that's where you are.
Right.
That might be a little ridiculous, but someone could know where you are by the appliance that you're using. That's sort of rudimentary, but that's what could be done. And some other ideas, other things that are going on with these. There are some things that have burned up, things like that. You got a particular story that I'd like people to know about you, Jeff.
Yeah.
What you just told them you didn't want one of these meters, right?
That's correct.
And you would think that, well, okay, if you don't want a meter, then they put another kind of meter in, right?
Consumer doesn't want the product, they're not going to be forced to have it.
But that's not what happened.
No, that's not what happened.
They told you you're going to have the meter, and you said, no,
Yeah.
I'm not. Tell us a little bit about that story. You
Well,
live in the Middle Tennessee area in Tennessee.
I live in Cheatham County,
Okay.
just right on the border of Davidson. And we had received some phone calls in the past about the possibility of upgrading, the system. They didn't say anything about what it was as far as a meter, but I already knew, just kind of knowing what's going on around the country and in Europe and all over the world. But so we had a meter installer come out to the home one day. This has been, I think, back in December. Yeah, late December. Luckily, I was home that day, and he was trying to install a smart meter. And I asked him, And I asked him what he was going to do. And he said, I'm going to install this new meter. I said, let me look at it. And sure enough, it was a smart meter, an AMI smart meter. And I said, no, I don't consent to that. And he got pretty upset with me. Apparently he's run into this before. He threatened to call our sheriff's department and have a deputy come out and force me to install it on my home. At that point, I kind of laughed at the guy because I kind of know our sheriff's department, or I thought I did at that time, and I didn't believe that they would be any part of that. And he called the sheriff's department, and shortly thereafter, I called the sheriff's department. Well, he was out on our bridge at the edge of our property line, and they said, no, we're not going to be used. That's a civil matter, so don't worry about it. We're not coming out there. So he had left, and fast forward 4, 5, 6 weeks into February, and I was at work, and my wife called me and said that the Sheriff's Department, Nashville Electric Service, we're all at our home right now preparing to put this meter on the house. And Sheriff's deputy was trying to coerce my wife into allowing them to install it. My wife didn't consent to having the meter installed, didn't consent to having our power cut off. They went ahead and made that decision on their own, cut our power off, and that's kind of where we've been since February. And I have, no trespassing signs. I don't want the smart meter installed all over the property. I have a cage around our meter base just to ensure that that didn't happen. So the power got cut off. I don't have a smart meter. That's the way it had to be.
Okay,
So
and this was February
February 18th, I
2017.
think. Yeah.
Okay, and as of this date, we're taping on April 27th. I'm not sure when viewers
29th.
are, April 29th. I'm not sure when viewers are seeing this,
Yeah.
but February, March, April, 2 months, you've had no power.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jeff's family has 2 little kids. One is 3 years old and the other infant at home and
Yeah.
without power.
Okay.
And
So how are
Yeah.
you all?
I couldn't
y'all
believe
handling
when
that?
I heard this story.
Okay.
And I thought our story was, kind of outrageous because we received similar letter from NAS legal department saying that our service would be disconnected, terminated if we don't call and schedule the smart meter installation. Prior to that, we sent our notice that we do not consent to the installation of the smart meter, and we put a constructive contract outside the building because a lot of families who say we do not consent on the phone, the installers come and install anyway without any announcements, without any considerations. But our constructive contract said anyone who would install a smart meter on our property would be liable for $1 million if they install it. And the installers didn't like it, and they involved the legal department that sent us this termination letter. And after that, we had to write our politicians. We wrote a letter which was addressed to U.S. senators and state Tennessee representatives and local politicians in the city and Williamson County, and copied our letter to media representatives. And so based on that, we were able to schedule a meeting with Nashville Electric Service Legal Counsel, Laura Smith, and had a very long conversation in front of the Tennessee representative discussing fire hazard, how many fires are happening across the country. And there's a whole documentary about it called Take Back Your Power, which talks not only about fires but other issues. We were saying that we did not receive any information about smart meters on the day when NAS wanted to install them. The customer service did not even know the brand, model, or any information. They could not provide it to us. And we said we need written, informed consent. We have to review full information about the meters before we allow it on our property. And so when we had the discussion about problems and so forth, the NAS legal counsel agreed that they would delay termination of our service until we finish our thoughtful discussion. And so it was back in November 2016, and to this day they have not provided information about smart meters and smart grids, those high power routers that they're installing in the subdivisions and so forth, which relay the information in the smart grid to the headquarters. And those routers are kind of like mini cell towers, and those are violating the easement agreements and right-of-way agreements in the local communities. And we were asking our homeowners association where those routers are located. No one knows. We asked the city, city of Brentwood, where those routers are located. No one knows, and they said city is not involved in the electric service, and they don't even have to know where it is. And NAS is not disclosing their location. And no information on the smart meter, because inside of it is an antenna, what we're learning from online. And it collects information not only of the usage of electricity on the property where it's located, it's collecting information from all neighbors. So in essence, it's like a little cell tower in itself, which collects, cell phone signals from all over, and then transmits it to the next antenna.
So you don't have a smart meter in your home either?
At this time, we don't have.
Do you know how
smart
many
meter.
of your neighbors? Is this something that's pretty much all over your neighborhood except for you, or are there other people that are?
There were several people who also posted constructive contracts and didn't want this meter, and they received the same termination letter. And some families couldn't handle this pressure, and they called NAS to schedule. Well, they said, we want the information first. And the installers came to their house, started pressuring them into installation, and said, we will terminate your power if you don't install it now. And they caved in and installed it.
So what's your status now, Jeff? Are you pretty much just without power forever, or are you still in negotiations, or what's your status?
There actually isn't any negotiations. They've come up with, going back a little bit, I've spoke with many of my representatives, and some of them have made it clear that they would like to see. I've had a meeting with Nashville Electric Service, TVA, and one of my representatives, and they try to make it clear what they would like to see happen, but none of that ever happened. What they've offered is to go ahead and sign an opt-out agreement, which is actually an opt-in agreement, and it's a deferral. They call it an opt-out. It just defers the time. It still allows them at any point in time to come onto your property and install the meter. So I haven't signed that.
Yeah,
Plus, there's a bill.
kind of,
There's money associated with it.
Now, in my understanding, I had seen some kind of agreement that you can agree to, that's the agreement that it's $141 switch-out fee. So you can keep the old meter if you pay them $141.
No, you cannot keep your analog meter at all. We didn't know that at the time, but people who signed this form in our subdivision, they were surprised when NAS came and switch their analog meter on some kind of ERT meter, which also based on the radio frequency.
The AMR.
But it's not smart, as they said, so it doesn't
It
have
has a
two-
one-way antenna.
Yeah, one-way antenna instead of two-way antenna.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's $141 and then $32 a month meter reading fee to pay for the person to come out and read your meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, you know, I almost could understand. You know, I mean, you have thousands of people that don't have the meter. You have one that doesn't. They got to send one person out. The problem is they can come install the smart meter anytime they want. After I sign and pay and all that, they can still come put the meter in when they choose to.
Hmm.
So it doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
You know.
So you're basically without power, and there's nothing.
Well, I'm producing
There's nothing.
enough at home on our own
Okay.
to you know get by with the necessities. So and my wife is on the same page I am.
Yeah.
So it's been difficult, I'll say that. So we weren't quite ready to go completely off the grid, but
And what if when you talk to legislators, there's nothing that they are willing to do as far as legislatively saying that a person will have a right to keep an analog meter. We're past that. Is that right?
well
They're-
we
they're-
do.
They're not gonna make a law that says a person can keep an analog meter.
They
if they choose to.
they might if we get enough. If there's enough people.
Okay.
If there's enough people, and then Cindy is working on that. A lady
Yeah,
we
so in
work
our
with.
group.
So in November, that can possibly get in, put in
Okay.
legislation.
Okay.
And
Is
some
there
states.
is there a group working on that viewers could contact and say and support? Okay. Is there a web page
Yes.
or something
So
that people could go to support that?
we're creating right now a Facebook page
Mhm.
called Written Informed Consent Tennessee. It will be connected to the Smart Meter Education Network, which was created and managed in Michigan. And it was highly successful. It has a lot of information about different aspects of meter readers and smart grids and so forth. And the legislature in Michigan has been deliberating on a bill this season, starting in December or when it started, November, where they proposed the real opt-out agreement where people can keep their analog meter and pay either $5 fee for meter reading or just read it themselves and send this information to the utility company without any charge.
Now, our viewers might be thinking, well, come on, why not just get the meter? But you all have uncovered or read their studies and reports of these things, not just because people are Luddites and say, well, I don't like these cantankerous newfangled things. There are reports of fires, explosions. Tell me a little bit about that there are,
Yeah.
as opposed to the analog meters that didn't burn up and explode. Are there real bona fide reports of problems with these things? Not tin hat, tinfoil hat, oh, wow, these things are going to, but real reports.
Well, there's
of these
electrical
things.
contractors in Nashville area that I've contacted that tell me that there's something going on with those meters. They're not part of the meter, but everything from the meter on into the house, they're having issues right there at that meter base. Fires, melting, wires melting, in a recent period of time. And so that I know for a fact. That kind of tells me something right there. Actually, I heard, I don't know if I say his name, I'm going to, Dr. Electric. I heard it on the radio, 5 homes that he went to in 1 week. This just happened a few weeks ago. I was listening on the radio. He said, we had melting at the meters, and that I had to call him and ask him questions. And so we got that.
In our subdivision, so majority of the houses had the meter replacement in September 2016. In December 2016, one of the houses burned to the ground completely. The fire marshal had extensive investigation and concluded it was electricity related. But they couldn't pinpoint exactly what happened because the house burned completely to the ground. It had to be leveled, and now it's being rebuilt. And so it cannot be said with 100% certainty what was the cause of the fire. But we lived in our subdivision for 9 years or so, and we never heard of any fires. And suddenly, within 3 months, there's this huge fire.
That's odd.
With
That's
explosion.
odd because most of the times with fires, these
Yes.
guys have enough. Even if it's burned to the ground, they find some
Well,
cause.
they ruled
for a
out
fire.
of that it wasn't a Christmas tree
Mhm.
because of the location or something. I don't know. What.
Okay.
They're not UL listed. That's,
Mhm.
I mean, I mentioned that. I contacted the state inspector that inspects in our region, and Davidson County, Cheatham, to ask him if everything in our home or associated with our home needed to be UL listed according to law. And he verified yes, of course. He was very surprised to find out that they're not UL listed. So there's obviously concerns, regardless.
Okay.
You know,
And across the not only world but in the U.S., there are multiple reports of fires, and it's documented and in news reports and so forth. And there, in 2013, a documentary came out called "Take Back Your Power," and the updates on the website takebackyourpower.net has every year all the reports, and it mentioned in 2016 report specifically about fires, and it showed the back of the meter how it has narrow connectors which create arcing, which is extreme temperatures and causing fires, and there is no surge arresters like on the analog meters, and it's made of plastic, which is flammable, and also plastic leaches moisture, which also not fireproof, and so forth. And there's so many issues that it's incredible that it's still in service.
Okay. So what does the future look like for this? Is this something that's just come and it's going to overpower everybody, or is there actually enough pushback that you think this is going to turn around, or what do you all think?
Well, the state of Michigan and state of Texas introduced bills to have the opt-out, and many other groups across the country want this. And we were kind of thinking, what could be the reason why there's such a hard push for this technology? And because we were looking at the 4G, 5G technology rollout, that there might be some kind of telecommunications industry push to push installations without consent, so they could have the precedent and push their 4G and 5G networks without consent on people's properties, similar to smart meters, and using the utility poles for installing antennas for 5G technology, which is 64 gigahertz, was approved just last year in 2016 for installations. And the claim is it will be 100 times faster download, so the movie will take seconds instead of minutes. But because of all of the health concerns, cybersecurity, and some other issues, and all of how can this technology influence people's health? No one studied this. If it 100 times faster with download, will it be 100 times faster for causing brain cancer? We don't know the answer to this question.
Okay. So Jeff, you and your family are basically without electricity. Do you have plans to just continue on that way?
I mean, we'll we'll probably do something a little better than what we're doing right now
Okay.
if it lasts too long.
But you all are good the way
Right.
you are.
We're fine.
You're good. Okay.
Um,
Okay. Well, I appreciate you all being here. Wish you luck on your pursuits, and hope things go well. Hope you and your family do well, and you Natalia and your family with the fight that you're fighting here. Appreciate the listeners, and hopefully you all will learn more about this. Where is it that they can go to learn more?
It's a Smart Meter Education Network.
Smart Meter Education Network.
And for Tennessee, it will be Written Informed Consent Tennessee Facebook page.
Okay. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you for educating us on this, and keep in touch. Maybe we can have you come back later and tell us more about what goes on in the future.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Appreciate all you watchers and listeners. Stay tuned to Veritas Populi, where we learn more and more about all the things in Middle Tennessee and the rest of the United States. Keep up the pursuit for the truth. Never stop trying to study and learn more about what makes this nation work and what makes good people like this. Try to continue on to fight the good fight and find out more about the truth.